Ugh. All right, so Florida State gets burned on the recruiting trail yet again. This time by the likes of Arkansas, and not one I saw coming. I don't even necessarily have words. One second here. This is the first live we've done on this channel, and definitely didn't want it to have to be for something like this. But I don't know. I had a video, I had a commitment video ready for Tavion Wallace, and didn't get to post it. So I figured I'd get on here, try to get at least a little bit of something out of it. Yeah, just I'm out of words. I'm at a loss for words. Just you lead for a kid all cycle, and you know he was the top priority at linebacker, and it's just disappointing. You see it time and time again with Randy Shannon, and just the inability to close on linebacker recruits. Yesterday, Zadrius Randy Sale, who was kind of like a Washington Florida State battle, and ended up staying home, which I can't fault the staff too much for, because that's a tough pull out of Washington. But I thought in the light of getting Tavion Wallace today, that wouldn't be such a big deal. And then Gavin Nix last night commits to Miami, which that one, I think they kind of let happen. I think Nix wasn't the top priority because of the other guys that you were in a good spot for. But now, now it sucks. Now you went 0 for 3, at least on the first round. I mean, you sit there 20 minutes of preaching through this really terrible connection on an Instagram live, and it was whatever, just because I thought for sure there was no way Florida State would miss on this kid. Definitely not to the likes of Arkansas. I thought if anybody it would be Georgia, who we missed out on, or missed out to. But yeah, so when I say that's more shocking to me than how we landed CJ Wiley last week. Like, really, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure what happened. I'll say this on the bright side, the Arkansas commit seems a little shaky. I don't really know how much I buy that'll stick. Arkansas is probably one of the hottest seat staff in the entire country. They might win 4 or 5 games if they're lucky. So who really knows how much that'll stick? But you never like to be playing from behind these recruitments, and we weren't all cycle from the likes of it, but something happened. I've even seen it's been posted, I think now, that he actually already verbally committed to the staff on his last visit. So what transpired in between then and now, I really have no idea. But I do know that everybody was shocked by this. Nobody knew. I have no words right now, to be honest with you. I don't, I know there's two, play on the other side of the coin here. Arkansas does have kind of connections there. I think their linebackers coach actually recruited Tavion's older brother back in a couple years ago. And, so maybe there was a little bit of a connection there, but there was no reason to see this kid go to Arkansas. He made sure to include him in the top 4, and I think they definitely were in it. But I just, over the last few days, when it's kind of went quiet, everybody's been kind of looking for updates. It's been Florida State, Florida, UGA, and Arkansas was almost just like the imposter sitting there. And I guess we all got proven wrong on that. So I do think the connection there, maybe with his brother, kind of played a part, and could have just really bonded with I can't remember his name, something Williams. But yeah, so maybe he did just, but he went on like one visit there, and he's been to Florida State like 5 or 6 times, I think. So it's just a whiff, and a bad one. there's no other way to dice it. We'll get into how much he'll stick, if he'll flip, what kind of happens next at this point, but just you really couldn't afford a whiff here, and they've been proving us wrong all cycle so far with their recruiting. They've been, like I said, I had a pre-record ready for this commitment earlier, and in that video, I was giving Randy Shannon his flowers for the way we've been recruiting, but again, that was all contingent on landing your top target on the board, and when you don't do that, when you miss out to Arkansas, it's just hard. It's hard to think that there's going to be improvement because we haven't seen it yet. We do have Ethan Pritchard, and he's a 4-star linebacker, but he's not Tavion Wallace, and he's not Gavin Nix, and he's not Zadrius Randy Saleh, and you go 0 for 3 in this stretch, and that's a problem. You at least needed to get your top target there. And like I said in the video that I guess I won't get to post, but Tavion was the top linebacker target. That was the must get kid, at least at that position. And one of the most important recruits for Florida State to land, still out there, in my opinion. I just fringe 5-star talent. You had to have him, and losing him to Arkansas is just not a good sign. It's not a good feeling. I spent a couple hours working on that video and getting it ready, but I did the same thing yesterday for the linebacker who committed to Washington, which I kind of knew that was a little shaky, but I thought Tavion was a lock of all locks. And I mean, Steve Wiltfong had a crystal ball, and he loves to flip him at the last minute when he gets intel, and he did not. So he didn't know. It doesn't sound like any of our staff was in his commitment live chat commenting. I mean, at some point you got to realize there's members of the staff that don't have a good enough pulse on their recruitments, and we have not recruited a top linebacker, and I really don't know how long. Genuinely shocked, but not surprising because Arkansas is rock bottom. I agree with you. It's getting very frustrating at this point, and there needs to be a change. You can't have a kid call you the leader all cycle. I mean, Zach Boston put in a crystal ball for Florida State to land him back in January, and all the predictions that he has were to Florida State from all media members. I mean, all morning we're seeing Dogs HQ and Swamp 247. Saying, I think it's Florida State. I think it's Florida State. I think it's Florida State. Not hearing anything that makes me confident. I think it's Florida State. I mean, like I said, Arkansas was almost like a filler team or something. I don't really know. It's just one I didn't see coming. And yeah, it is very, very frustrating. Now, I will say, like I said a few minutes ago, Arkansas, their staff is probably one of the hottest seat teams out there right now. They're not going to have a good season, and they haven't had a good season in a while. And I would be willing to bet that they're getting fired before too long. So we'll see how much that sticks. Their defensive coordinator if he sticks around there somehow, that you just didn't want to be having to work on a flip from Arkansas here. Is it possible? Yeah. Do I think Florida State will stop recruiting him? Probably not. Depending. If he straight up played him, if he lied to him, then yeah, Florida State, Mike Norvell, they typically don't play that a whole lot. So they very well could say, no, we're just done with them. And that sucks. That really sucks. I'm not sure. I'd be willing to bet that Mike Norvell's not happy here. And, like I said, we've seen this before. I've done videos here where, when Randy Shannon got extended a few months back, I was blown away by it. I did not, and because of this scenario right here, right? Like, again, to their credit, they started off the cycle good, and we looked like we were in a good spot for all the linebackers. Where we started out, Ethan Pritchard committed pretty early, and that was a good start. Gavin Nix, Zadrius Randy Saleh, Tavion Wallace. I mean, Zayden Walker was even on campus for a while, and we pretty much knew he was a Georgia lock. But yeah, it's all again, kids. See the kid. Yeah, I think unfortunately, to Florida State's despair, it's become a little trendy to toss the hat or whatever. I thought he was going to pull like a Hakeem, right, where he puts on the Florida State hat and he tossed it back, and then for the VGA hat, tossed it back. I was like, okay, like here comes the Florida State jersey. Here comes you know whoever, some Florida State legend to bring out a Garnet jersey and hand it to him and be this whole thing. And I even when we chose Arkansas, I even just paused for a second. I was like, okay, this isn't going to be the way it ends, right? And then they kept the shirts on, and I was just like, whoa. Wasn't one Arkansas fan. No, yeah, I know. Like I said, I mean, Luke Cromont was in there. Tamiwa Durajaye was in there. Adam Fuller, I think, was in there. I'm pretty sure I saw Adam Fuller in there. Yeah, I don't think anyone saw this coming. And honestly, like that points to a problem. Even like we you felt so good on the Sunday. You were in watching his commitment, sitting through 20 minutes of church, and I don't even mind any of that. Like credit to the kid for being that religious and everything, and all that stuff. But like, it was worth it to sit there for it or through it when you thought he was going to end up being a Seminole, but it just didn't work out, I guess. What is the pivot for next linebacker recruit? It sounds like they're hearing some good stuff about TJ Alford, the Ohio State linebacker commit, and I can see that one. He's from is it Vero Beach, I think. So him going to Ohio, that's you always want to play on the home connection, right? You want to keep kids home in the state of Florida, and it sounds like there is some buzz picking up in that one. I think he deleted like everything off his Instagram except a pair of the Florida State gloves. So I don't. They could pivot there, and I don't think they'll stop recruiting Tavion. Especially we'll have to see like and I'd imagine the next few hours more information is going to come out about how this kind of all unfolded, and based on what you hear from that, I could see that maybe you end up feeling like there's a push you can make there. Um, I don't know that this was a money thing, but Arkansas is one of the obviously they don't recruit at like a top 10 level or nothing like that, but they're in the SEC, and I could see them pulling together, especially if they have a connection like we kind of said with his brother. I can see them pulling the majority of their recruiting budget, that they don't land top kids with, and I could see them pulling that and making one of these kind of shockers, but again, who knows if it'll stick. I'm not gonna obviously it's nowhere close to being able to predict a flip there, but depending on how it was done, I would say that the staff is still going to recruit him. So maybe they could work on a flip later. What else at linebacker? Ty Jackson. Ty Jackson announces in season, and that's when he could still get involved in. But yeah, other than that, I mean, the linebacker board is dwindled at this point with Gavin Nix to Miami. Like I think you could have pivoted to him first, and I think he even kind of said something similar, like they have a lot of linebackers on. Like he knew that he wasn't our top guy, and I think he thought we were going to get Tavion just like everybody else did, and he wanted to go to Miami and be their top linebacker in the class. And I can't blame him for that, but that's why the staff has got to do better about reading the room, right? Because they probably could have got Gavin Nix. Like I would not be surprised if they had greenlit him weeks ago that we could have actually got him. He was just on campus, like 2 weeks ago, something like that. So I think they could have got him. I think they could have pushed and worked that one out. But yeah, so you just got to get better about reading the room, because we like last cycle, right? Last cycle you had KJ Bolden in the fold. Not every situation is KJ Bolden. I get that, and I hate when people say that, like just KJ Bolden all over again. I don't really agree with that. But like you had KJ Bolden committed, and then that one safety from Minnesota, was it Coy Parrish or something like that? He was on campus, and I think they could have also got him, but he even said like, they already got their safety, they said, and he ended up going elsewhere. Then you lose KJ on signing day, and you had a kid who was actually very, very good, that was willing to come come and commit to you, and you turn them away. So you can't keep running into that scenario, right? Like at some point we're gonna have to address that that's a problem, and I don't even know that that's a problem. Like it's just I don't even know what it is exactly, but just it's just a pattern that you think you got these kids, and you start off hot because they did it last cycle, they've done it this cycle, and like I said, every linebacker that they were targeting, it looked like they had a very good shot for. They kept getting them all on campus. Gavin Nixon on campus a bunch. Adrius Randy Saleh was on campus a bunch. Zane Walker, especially early on, was on campus a bunch. It's like you had the board and you had steam with a lot of these guys. It just for whatever reason, it just keeps fizzling out by the time you get to the end of summer and into the fall. You're nowhere near as hot as you were, especially with linebacker recruits. Um, you know, I think, like again, not the whole staff because Alex Atkins is recruiting out of his mind right now. I think Mike Norvell is a good recruiter. Pastor Tan is obviously a good recruiter, one of the best ones we have. Also, Ron Dugans, a little hit or miss there. We did just get C.J. Wiley. And I think we're probably going to get Dalen McCutcheon, and Odell is recruiting pretty well right now too. And I don't think we're done there either. Just there's a weak link here, and it's definitely Randy. Randy is probably the weakest link on the staff, in my opinion. Just got a tight end. Just got a tight end out of Nebraska that really nobody thought you were going to get up until maybe the last 3 days. So like you've got other members of the staff pulling off the same kind of upsets, just for the good guys. Nebraska boards were dropping predictions for Chase Lofton. I think the day he committed to Florida State. Same with C.J. Wiley. C.J. Wiley only had UGA reporters there, and everybody when he committed to Florida State, everybody paused, was waiting for the hat toss and everything else. And so, I guess we were due for one. I guess it's just frustrating to see, like with this kid, like frustrating to see that it was with a linebacker, the top linebacker, a kid that you've had all the momentum for, all the steam for, all cycle. Like I said, they missed on Adrius Randy Saleh yesterday. Not a big deal because that was one that was going to be tough anyway. You got him on campus a bunch, and you would like to have still landed him, especially now, but it wasn't like nobody was melting down over not getting that kid from Washington. It was pretty obvious he wanted to stay home, and you can only do so much to combat that. Now the Gavin Nix thing, also not a big deal because, like I said, the staff kind of let him go do his thing, and that was whatever, and but now that looks like a miss. Also, it definitely is like a misread. So I don't follow very much. Yeah, I mean, I think the portal is more sustainable than people give it credit for. Like, there's always going to be talent in the portal. No, you're not always going to get a Jared Verse or a Braden Fisk or something like that. But, I think there will always be, quality, quality players in the portal, and especially with coaches, the whole coaching carousel, and even like everybody says, like no transfer come from good teams. Well, a lot of those teams lose guys to the NFL eventually. So, I think the portal is here to stay, and I think they'll continue to utilize it probably, better than anyone else like they have for the last couple of years. But yeah, you definitely still need to see an uptick in high school recruiting. Because what Tavion Wallace projects to be, what some of these other kids project to be, you get them for 3 to 4 years. It's definitely that's a better way to do it than the portal. So I agree. Yeah. So I get the whole following recruiting thing, and I don't know that it's necessarily fair all the time, but yeah, like stuff like this, it's frustrating. I do hear you. I agree with you. How many stars was Blake? Blake was a 4-star. He was a 4-star. That was a good pool, but even then, I don't think Randy Shannon was his primary recruiter there. I think it was was it Yak? I can't even remember now. I'll try to see if I can pull that up real fast. Yeah, I'm not sure. It does say recruited by Randy Shannon, but I feel like I remember hearing that Randy Shannon was not running point in that recruitment, but I really don't remember there. Um, and again, that was a good pool for sure. And I to Randy's credit, right? I'll give him this. I think he develops at a very good level. Like, and I don't think anybody's really ever questioned that. I don't know that any other linebackers coach in the entire country gets the level of play out of a guy like Kalen DeLoach that they have. Tatum Bethune was very good. DJ Lundy has developed to be pretty good, and but even DJ Lundy, he almost lost. Like, you technically did lose him for a little bit. You had to go. You basically had to flip him back from Colorado in the transfer portal last cycle. So, like, I do think, again, and on field results. Yeah, I'm not one of those guys that would, a lot of people talk about Miami, how they. I've seen some people say that they would take Mario Cristobal over Mike Norvell just because of the recruiting, and I'm no, nowhere close. But like, Mike does gotta have a better read on things, and like I said, when I saw that Ron Dugans and Odell and Randy and all them guys got extensions last winter, like I think it was like December, maybe January that came out. But I was shocked by that, and I wasn't too happy about some of it. I made a video on here, and everybody kind of got mad at me for it, saying I needed to respect Odell, and for sure, like Odell is amazing. Like, I love Odell, and he's waking up this cycle. Like, we just got Kevin Wynn, we just got Myron Charles, and I still don't think you're done there. But those are guys that you ended up closing on, and so that's he's fine in my book. And also, again, also a great developer, and I think all these guys are. I think Ron Dugans is you can question that a little bit, but like yeah, it's just when these guys got extended, I was like, these are it's a good thing. It proves stability within the coaching staff to recruits, and I thought with all that, like, that would give us a big boost. And I'm not saying it hasn't, but you just again, linebackers, man, linebackers. It's getting to be a theme, and it's not a good one. Again, we'll see. We'll see if he sticks with Arkansas. It would surprise me. I don't think that sticks at all. Now, I'm not saying that he ends up choosing Florida State. Like, I'm not saying Florida State flips him. I don't even know if they'll continue to recruit him for sure. Like I said, it just depends on how it was done. But I would still bet money that he's not committed to Arkansas on signing day. And maybe he is. I definitely could be wrong there, but I think they've seen something come out on the board saying like that his parents didn't even go with him on the Arkansas visit, and there was only like one. I just I'm not sure what scenario that actually sticks, especially against UGA, Florida State. I I've seen some people say I could see this, I guess, but that this is the biggest troll. Like, um, this was some kind of major big troll, and I don't know. I could see that, I guess, but I'm not sure that it's going to end up working out for Florida State still. um, luckily, I do think, like, I will say this, right? So Arkansas has a season. Everybody thinks they're going to have probably at least some of that staff gets fired. Um, Georgia definitely fills up their class by then. I'd be willing to bet Georgia is not going to be relevant here in December when that kid actually signs. And they have Zayden Walker already, so like they have Zayden Walker. They're probably going to go ahead and now that Tavion's committed elsewhere, they're probably going to greenlight a couple guys they've kind of had waiting. Florida doesn't even really need linebackers. They signed a couple last cycle, but they'll probably add one or two. And I don't know that they'll, be super heavy in this one come that time either. Now, like I said, I don't know who Florida State quite pivots to yet. Especially up until today, I was feeling good about TJ Alford, Tarvis Alford. But now I'm even hesitant to believe that because you got to flip him from Ohio State. Like, you do got the in-state thing working for you there, but I'm definitely not gonna hold my breath on that. And I probably won't sit through another 20, 30 minutes of preaching just to see what the decision gets. But yeah, frustrating, definitely frustrating. And I know a lot of people get frustrated about this kind of thing. And again, with linebackers specifically, I 100% understand it because this was the cycle you needed to see that change. There was no reason for it not to. Kalen DeLoach probably had one of the most important plays of the season. you know, Randy's guy probably made one of the biggest plays of Florida State season against Clemson. The sack fumble, ran back for a touchdown, changed the whole game, probably changed the whole season. Obviously the development's been there, like we talked about, and locking it. Win 13 games, you win the conference. You get Mike extended and locked in with extra recruiting budget, by the way, and again, like this development. Randy's not going anywhere now, which we'll see, but he did get extended, so there was no reason to see this could happen. There was no reason that we shouldn't see more from Randy at this point, more from recruiting like that. So who knows? Who really knows? But I'd be willing to bet that there's a meeting being had right now because this was a recruitment that Mike Norvell was heavily involved in also, and I think that was a shocker to everybody. Like I said, Adam Fuller was in there. Adam Fuller's not wasting his time in there if he doesn't think that kid's going to be a null. And I'm just assuming that there's a conversation being had probably right now, or at least a conversation being scheduled for the morning, something like there's definitely things going on there now because there's no way that this is just going to be okay, and it shouldn't be. Now, Mike Norvell is loyal to his staff, and that's a great thing, again, because they do develop really well. But, you cannot keep having this. You can't keep having it. There's Florida State, again, 13-0 or 13-1, whatever, and just won your conference. You just extended all your staff. None of them are going anywhere. You won the state. You've beat your rivals. You beat Clemson finally. You should have made the playoffs. Like, you needed to see the recruiting reflect that a little bit. And I know that it's not always instantly, but no, it's not even that. Like, I know this happens to everybody else, obviously. I think Miami got spurned for Georgia Tech the other day, and sometimes these kids really do pick odd schools, and But like my biggest concern is that like this was a must-have kid. Like, this was the top priority kid, and he led for him all cycle. He said it himself. He had all the predictions. Everybody said this was Florida State's, and you lose him. You lose him at the final hour. It sounds like, and you have one other linebacker committed, and I do like Ethan Pritchard. I do like him, but he's not Tavion Wallace. He's not Dangerous Randy Saleh. He's not Gavin Nix even. So it's not that we lost a recruit. It's just that we keep missing on linebackers. That's my problem, and there's just no reason for it. Just came off recruits from Georgia. Yeah, and I made a video this morning giving them props on that. CJ Wiley was kind of a similar scenario where CJ Wiley choosing Florida State over Georgia is not the same thing though as this kid choosing Arkansas over Florida State. Arkansas hadn't won their conference in I don't even know how long. I don't think they have as good NIL as we do, even despite the fact that they're in the SEC. Their on-field product hasn't been there. There's not much stability or confidence and stability, at least in that coaching staff. So, and again, this was Florida State's top target at linebacker. CJ Wiley wasn't, Georgia's top receiver target. Is a big one, and I think he'll be really good. And I, credit to them, yes, but none of those are linebackers. That's why I said like Odell. I gave Odell credit earlier. He's recruiting defensive line really, really well, and it's just you wanted to see linebacker be better this cycle, and it just hasn't been. Not closed yet, at least. Yeah, that's why I say like he had a long time relationship with those guys. They recruited his brother a few years back and everything. So I get that, and I'm not saying nothing about that, but it just it if that was the case though, like here's my thing. If that was the case, like you felt like there was relationships that you just couldn't quite top, fine, but then you got to push a little bit harder for a guy like Gavin Nix. But I think you absolutely could have landed Gavin Nix if he thought he could be one of the top guys in this class, and it just that didn't happen. um, Texas having a hard time getting D tackle right now, so for sure, yeah. Again, pulling Myron Charles, keeping him away from Texas, especially after that Texas mod dropped a crystal ball. I wasn't feeling too good about it. I was a little irritated, but so yeah, I agree. Texas definitely struggles getting defensive linemen, which is kind of odd, but they do. And every team kind of has that position, and that's fine. But and I'm not like again, I don't think this is something just purely unique to Florida State or anything like that. But it does get frustrating, and like I said, the main reason I'm even on here right now is because I made a whole video, a pre-record about this kid committing and talking about that, and I didn't even get to post it. So like, I want to get on here at least talk about not getting in with you guys. And where's Hans 11 linebackers? I didn't even know that. um, so you're going to want to fire dudes or for no, for sure. Yeah, that's what I've been saying. Like, Randy. I don't. Again, I'll say it again. I don't know that anybody could have gotten the same level of play out of like Kalen DeLoach or Tatum Bethune that Randy did. So absolutely a good developer. And yes, he's put them guys to the NFL. Um, I'm not taking nothing away from that because again, him developing Kalen DeLoach, like I just said, he had one of the probably most important plays of the entire season. Um, so the development is there, and that's why he's obviously that's obviously why he's still on staff, and like you know I hear you, but imagine, and this is the thing we've always said about Mike Norvell, and we've seen it in other positions. It's already starting to happen, but you take that same level of development from a guy like Tatum Bethune or Kalen DeLoach and give that to a high 4-star, fringe 5-star talent, and then get him for all of his whole college career, then that's it starts to get really fun. And again, I'm not saying nothing about development or anything like that because it is there for sure. But that's all the more reason like he should be recruiting better because these kids have seen it. Like Solomon Thomas, I think said it. Like I've seen what they do with guys out of the portal. I've seen what they do with lower ranked guys. Now, imagine what they can do with a guy like me. So Alex Atkins is using that same method there, and it seems like even Odell is because Braden Fisk was not a high draft pick coming when he transferred into Florida State. That was development, and they caught lightning there for sure. And I will think that they'll continue to find quality guys like that in the portal. Maybe not quite as crazy as a guy like Verse, but I think they'll always find quality talent in the portal. And I agree with that strategy to a point. Just again, you see Florida State picking up steam from just about every other position, and linebacker was one that we thought, okay, that linebacker board is huge, and then it slowly just dwindled down to nobody's even sure who they'll pivot to now, and a lot of the guys that they might pivot to are going to have to be flips, and that's just not gonna. You're not always going to flip. You can't count on flipping a kid. Is I guess a better way to say it. So I definitely don't want Adam Fuller fired. That's craziness, and I never was on board of that train. Adam Fuller once once Corey Raymond, or not Corey Raymond, once our Marcus Woodson, yes, sorry, once Marcus Woodson got fired and we hired Pat Surtain, I was like, okay, that's it, because the problem with the defense wasn't Adam Fuller, it was the secondary not being good enough, and obviously made the right hire in Surtain, and now we've got a top defense. I was getting solid 3-star linebackers in developing for sure. Rather have that than divas that want a big check. Yeah, I agree with that. And this staff, their recruiting approach is definitely old school like that. Like they're not gonna get involved in the Lamborghinis and things like that. And I agree with that for sure. Because that's just stupid. Sark walking by, what was it, 15 Lamborghinis and telling the kid like, don't make NIL your main thing. Like, okay, bro. I get it, and but like NIL is part of the game, and as a coach, as a coaching staff, you want to make it like you gotta acquire talent. Like talent acquisition is the name of the game. Now, yes, there's not there's some less than ideal ways to come about it. NIL has made that a lot cloudier than it used to be, which NIL has always been a thing, but just being so public now, it's just made it absurd. It's the Wild West out there. It really is. Yeah. So like I don't know that this was a check thing. Like I don't know this was all NIL related. I think it's been mentioned. The relationships he had with the Arkansas staff, and I get all that for sure. No, yeah, yeah, no, I know. Like, yeah, the Doomer fans, yeah, they'll find a reason to melt down over anything, and I get that, but yeah, it's out. We still got a top 10 class per on three. Like, I'm not freaking out, but especially because, like you said, development is there. We'll always do well in the portal and all that good stuff, but it would have like especially Tavion Wallace, more than really any other linebacker that's been on the board. Like Tavion Wallace has kind of always felt like he was a Nole, and I think I even like wrote that in the script for the video. Like it's one that always like felt cautiously safe. Like you were hesitant to let yourself get heartbroken, but you just kind of always felt like there was no way Florida State would lose this one, and so and that was him in Arkansas was just not on my bingo card today. Is Riley Pettyjohn a possibility? I think I think they were involved with him in the beginning, but I think he's narrowed it down like a top four. It's like Texas, Ohio State, Texas A&M, and Alabama. So I don't think Florida State's really too much in that one. For better or worse. I wouldn't be surprised to see them circle back, but again, we said Texas, Texas A&M, Alabama, and Ohio State. Like that's absolutely. I think he's out of the state of Texas too, so that's always going to be a tough pool. But with those four schools we named, NIL is obviously a very important part there. Yeah, that's one thing that's always worth thinking about. Like when you miss on a kid in the high school ranks, like Jalen Brown, perfect example. Jalen Brown, Florida State heavily recruited, got him on campus a bunch. Really down to him and or down to Florida State and LSU. Chose LSU. Went there for a year. Decided he wanted to come back and be at Florida State. So that could definitely happen with Wallace. I'm not saying it can't, but like you've already burnt a year there. Where if a kid is transferring from a school, he's probably not getting the reps he wants or not getting quite developed to the way that you want. Like you'd rather just get him on that first year, especially. You'd rather just get him and get a jump start on that development. So yeah, like I definitely see what you're saying for sure. And it wouldn't surprise me, especially because, like I said, if he does end up signing with them, I don't know how much that staff is gonna. I don't know how safe that staff is over at Arkansas. So he could definitely pop in the portal at some point. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that too. Like an unproven kid, like you'd have to pay more for a 5-star out of high school than a 5-star who went to a school, didn't really like have a great freshman season or whatever, probably didn't see the field too much, and then decided to hop in the portal. Like, yeah, you'd probably get him cheaper than you would out of high school for sure. So yeah, the roster management is the most important thing these days. Talent acquisition and roster management, because you still even got to be recruiting kids that are on your team, like kids that are on your roster. We've seen it with Josh Farmer and DJ Lundy. So I brought up DJ Lundy. Like he committed to Colorado. he entered the transfer portal, went on a visit to Boulder, committed to them, and looked like he was gone. But you had to get him back. So like even just it's just wild like that. I really wasn't going nowhere with that, but it's just crazy to think that you got to be putting that much effort into recruiting your guys that are on your roster. He definitely got some money for sure. Like you're not a top 40 kid going somewhere without getting paid like that. But I wouldn't think that they overpaid what Florida State was offering. I know they got their SEC team and all that. I don't think they outbid Florida State, especially not by some crazy amount or nothing like that. I wouldn't think, but I do think it was just I don't know, like I said, the troll conspiracy kind of sticks with me a little bit just because I just don't see what world that sticks. Maybe that's cope. Maybe that's me trying to cope, and no matter what, it's a whiff because that's embarrassing. Like it's one thing I've been wanting Florida State to shake. Like no matter how you do it, it'll just shake some of these bad optics. Like ever since Travis Hunter, it has been trendy to screw Florida State over, and it's annoying. Even if it's not a huge deal, obviously like Tavion Wallace isn't Travis Hunter and all that, but like just I think that's when it got trendy to disrespect Florida State out there, and hasn't really stopped since. Yeah, for sure. I think again, like to bring up Miami, like people love to throw Miami, especially like in the comments of my own videos. People will throw up Miami all the time. Mario is a much better crew than Mike. I don't even know that that's true. I do think Mario has a better staff, and I think they're a little bit more reckless with their NIL money. But like, no way you can convince me that Mario is a better game day coach and a better program builder. So yeah, like with what Mike Norvell has done with lower ranked recruiting classes already, and despite missing on Wallace here, I still think that this is probably going to be Mike Norvell's best recruiting class because again, they could still very much circle back on him, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Tavion Wallace end up signing with Florida State. Like I just wouldn't. But even if it doesn't go that way, I could still see this being Florida State's best class under Mike Norvell. And yeah, with like you said, with what he's done with 12th and 18th ranked recruiting classes, if he does pull in a top 10 one, yeah, like even if it is missing a guy like Wallace, I'm not freaked out at all. I still think I think we pretty much have locked down the ACC and the state. Really, I don't. Florida's a dumpster fire. They're going to stay that way. They got spurned here too. Silver lining, Florida and Georgia both got spurned here too. There was a lot of Gator fans in that live hoping that it was going to be them. So at least they got let down as well. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for that too. That could have been what happened. That could have been, Arkansas up the bag, and Florida State just wasn't going to do that. I don't know though. I don't think Florida State is really going to get outbid here, but yeah, no, Mario is not as good of an evaluator as Mike Norvell is. If anything, Mario waits for Mike to evaluate a kid, then extends an offer. Mike Norvell is probably one of the best evaluators I've seen in the game in a long time. Luke Kromenhoek was a 3-star or no unranked, and I think he played safety at the time. But it comes to Florida State, works out in the camp. Mike Norvell offers him, and he skyrockets to end up being a 5-star on 3, I think, but a very high 4-star. So yeah, Mike Norvell's a terrific evaluator for sure. Jamel Jones too early, yeah. Well, I don't know. I hear a crying baby back there. It means I gotta go do some stuff. But yeah, first live, pretty good. Wish it was under better circumstances, but good to get on here and chat with y'all a little bit. Definitely subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll probably do some more of these soon. Yeah, ready for football. I am too, man. Just next month and next month, and we're back. And I could not be more excited. I think that one in Dublin is going to be a good one, and hopefully a really good season on coming up here soon. But yeah, to round it off just real quick, I think recruiting is fine. I think there's some things that you got to fix, maybe a weak link you got to fix here and there, but I think we'll be fine. I still think this will be a top 10 class. I still think this will be the best class under Mike Norvell. But just disappointing today. We'll see if they can flip it or turn it around and flip him later down the road, or pivot to other options maybe. And I'm sure we'll be fine. Like, I'm not freaking out. But thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for chatting, and catch you on the next one. Go Noles.